Your Dog's Friend is a nonprofit 501c3 whose mission is to help keep dogs out of shelters by educating and supporting their humans. We promote positive method of training and behavior modification through stress-free methods. As part of that mission, we offer free webinars like the one you're about to watch. Subjects range from dog behavior, stress-free training, and other tools to help you understand your relationship with your dog. If you like the webinar, be sure to give us a thumbs up. Click the notification bell and subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you'll be notified when future videos are posted. Now enjoy the webinar.
So welcome everyone to today's webinar, Crate Training Made Easy, sponsored by Your Dog's Friend, a nonprofit 501c3 whose mission is to help keep dogs out of shelters by educating and supporting their humans. Since 2006, we have been promoting the use of positive dog training methods by hosting free webinars just like this one, posting valuable resources on our website, offering affordable training classes both in person and online, and providing free advice and referrals. Our speaker today is Laurie Luck. Laurie is the owner and trainer at Smart Dog University in Mount Airy, Maryland. She is also on the faculty of Karen Pryor Academy, a well-known program that teaches and accredits positive dog trainers. Laurie has trained service puppies for over 20 years and currently offers several training programs tailored just for puppies. So let's get started on today's webinar.
Thank you for the intro. I am here to talk about crate training. I've raised service dog puppies since 2001. So we've had a lot of puppies come through, and puppies are my specialty. So crate training, I got good at it pretty quickly because I had to. So when Your Dog's Friend asked me to do a crate training talk, I was all over it because I love it. It's something I think that is really important, and there's nothing mystical or mythical about it. It's something that everybody can do. And so I'm here just to give you what's worked for me. There are lots of different ways to crate train. What you're going to hear today from me is just the way that I do it. Okay, so let's get started. I want to show what are we going to cover today. These are the major topics that I'd like to cover. Why should you crate your dog? What kinds of crates are available out there? How to choose the right crate, appropriate uses of each crate, how to introduce the crate to your puppy, some common mistakes that I see out there, and then some troubleshooting. So I'm going to go through the first 3 of those bullet points pretty quickly, and then get to the actual training part as that's the meat of the talk. So this is Teddy. He was a service puppy many years ago. And I just want to show you what a happy puppy looks like when they're running to their crate. So here's the video of Teddy. This is Teddy. Here, Ted. Can you sit? Good boy. Teddy, kennel? That's a good boy, Teddy. So this is just a different view. Happy as can be, right? Just the happiest dog. And he can run to it from quite a distance. Yeah, so Teddy was from Hero Dogs. I raised a couple of dogs for them, for Hero Dogs. And then the balance of the dogs I've raised for Service Dogs of Virginia down in Charlottesville. So that's what crate training, the way I like to see a dog be so excited to go to their crate. We started with Teddy, obviously, when he was very young. So, okay, to get to that point of that happy puppy, we had to do a lot of things. But let's start with why crate your dog. I think these are pretty self-explanatory. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but one is safety. A crate protects your dog, and then it also protects your house, right? So it keeps the dog safe, but it also keeps your house safe. I don't know what I'd do without a crate. I could not house train a puppy, especially when I was doing 1 and 2 puppies a year. If I didn't have a crate, it would have taken a lot longer to get those puppies house trained. Crates are amazing management tools, and we'll talk about management. If your dog is ever injured, and they're on crate rest, if your dog has never been in a crate before, now they're hurt and they're stressed because they're in a crate. So it's great for injury recovery. It's your dog's own room. every now and then I'll run across people who are like, I don't want to crate my dog. It seems like it's really cruel. And I understand that, because if you just look at it as the dog has to go into a cage, it does feel like it could be cruel. But as you could see from Teddy, Teddy was just waiting, just please, 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 can I go to my room? So I like to think of it, and I like to explain to people that it really is. This is your dog's room. This is their space where they can take their goodies. So let's dig into the safety part a little bit. Right? You know, who knows what's in that trash right there with that dog? Could be chocolate, could be trash that they really just shouldn't be into. Crating helps protect your dog. And it may not even be a food item that they're swallowing. It could be, we just cooked bacon the other day, and you know, the greasy paper towels, there were a lot of them. If a dog eats a wad of greasy paper towels, that's not going to be great, right? So a crate can help keep your dog out of the trash and out of either eating too much food, food that's bad for them, food that could harm them, or something that could really hurt them, cause surgery to have to happen. So we don't want that. So it also protects your house. As you can see here, a dog that's crated can't also do that lovely mess that you see there on the screen, that shredded sofa, right? So not only does it protect your sofa, it protects a lot of electrical items, just the furniture, all kinds of things. So the crate really just, it sort of limits your dog from the trouble that it can get into, and the damage that your dog can do. So it keeps them off the furniture. It keeps them away from the houseplants. It keeps them off the counters. If you've ever had a dog that's counter surfed, you probably know that it doesn't take long for them to figure out that good stuff's on the counter. We call that one trial learning. If they swipe a sandwich off the counter one time, if they get lucky one time, you're going to have a really hard time convincing them that putting their paws on the counter is a bad idea, because they're if they could talk, they'd say it's not a bad idea. It's a very good idea, because that's where all the good stuff is. So if your dog is crated, they can't learn how good the stuff is on the counter. And so if they don't know that there's good stuff up there, then you're already ahead of the game. So those are two really big reasons for safety. Protects your dog from your house, and it protects your house from your dog. Here's where we talk about house training. I would be lost without a crate for house training. House training requires two things: that you recognize your dog's signals that that it has to go out, and that you can prevent the dog from going to the bathroom inside the house. A crate can help you do that. So crates for me are essential for house training, because we use a crate to help us capitalize on the fact that dogs, puppies, they don't like to go to the bathroom where they have to sleep, right? Nobody likes that. So if they're in a crate, if your dog or your puppy's in a crate and they have to go to the bathroom, they can't leave the crate, right? So they're much more likely to whine and let you know that, hey, I need to go to the bathroom, which is great, because then you can recognize sort of their time schedule that they're on of when they have to go to the bathroom. If you don't use a crate, in order to recognize those signals, you're more likely to have to tether them to you, which is absolutely an option. You can absolutely hook the leash to your, if it's a puppy, to your belt or a belt loop, but it's just a little bit more cumbersome, you know, if you're walking around the house and the puppy's got to follow you everywhere. So without the crate, you have to tether that puppy to you and keep a keen eye on them, and they have to go everywhere you go, so that you can recognize the signals, and so that they can't also sneak around the corner and go in the house. So if they're crated and the crate is the appropriate size, which is, we're going to get to that in a little bit, they'll let you know. It's the best house training aid that I've ever found. It's the most convenient, other than, you know, just 100% eyes on puppy, which can be hard depending on what your household is like. If you've got multiple people in your household, if you've got other dogs, if you've got other animals, if you work from home, you can't have your eyes on your puppy or your dog 100% of the time. And there will be mistakes, and mistakes do happen, but it slows down house training. So crate training is also really helpful with house training. So my other bullet was management. And here we have a dog learning how good stuff is on the counter. That's what we're trying, not for that. We want them to not learn that. So management helps keep your dog out of trouble. Also, you can't teach your dog when you're not there. So people will say, I want my dog to stay off the couch when I'm not home. And I say, well, then crate your dog or gate your dog out of the room that has the couch in it, because you can't teach your dog or tell your dog anything if you're not home, if you're not there to do it, or put chairs up on the sofa so that the dog can't get up there. Those are really your only options. And another piece of the management tool is that it helps prevent bad habits. So I like to use the crate. Like if I have to go take a shower, I can't necessarily bring the puppy in the bathroom with me because the bathroom isn't really puppy proofed, and the bathroom's big enough that if they did have to go to the bathroom, they could find a corner and go while I'm in the shower. There's nothing I can do about it. So the things that they could chew up in the bathroom, the trash that they get into, the cabinets, the towels, all the things. So the crate is just a great, I say management, but it's like a babysitter that can sort of safely contain your dog. It's great for injury recovery. It's great for crate rest, and it's also good for surgery recovery. So most dogs at some point in their life are going to have to spend some time at a veterinary hospital, whether they're getting spayed or neutered, they've ingested something and they have to have surgery to have the foreign body removed, or they injure themselves. And so chances are your dog will at some point spend some time in a crate at the veterinary hospital at the very least, but probably will have to spend time at your house in a crate. So you hear of athletic dogs injuring their ACLs, and they have to have surgery in 6 weeks, 8 weeks of crate rest. And you don't want, your dog is already stressed because it's injured and probably has had surgery. And then imagine throwing a curveball at that dog and going, oh, by the way, you don't know this and you don't know how to do this, but now you have to lay still for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And I can only go out for bathroom breaks on a leash with me. So that gets really tough for a dog that's never been crated before. So a dog that has learned that the crate is a good place to be, it's their own room, and they've had enjoyable experiences in the crate, those dogs are going to be a lot easier to rehab, to recover, less stressed, much more comfortable if they've had some previous good experiences in the crate. The other reason that we like to teach good crate associations is it's your dog's own space. That's their space. That's all theirs. And nobody will bug them when they're in there. The kids won't climb in the crate. You won't drag them out of the crate. It's where they can go for their downtime. If it's really hectic in the house or noisy, or you've got a lot of people over and the dog's like, I need a break from this, they can go in their crate and they can escape sort of the hubbub by going in there. It's a great place. I can't tell you the number of puppies I find in the crate just laid out sleeping. Crate doors open. They can choose to sleep anywhere they'd like. They choose to do their relaxation in the crate because it's relaxing. It can also be a really good place to stash their treasures. So sometimes even my adult dog here, he'll take a Kong into the crate because it's his own little space. He can take it, he can eat it anywhere he wants when I give it to him, but he likes to take it into the crate because he can stash his treasures in there. It's a safe place to take a nap. Nobody's going to step on your dog or your puppy if they're in their crate, right? They're not going to be, stepped on, or toy is not going to hit them in the head, or anything like that. It's just a nice, safe place for your dog to be. And I find that dogs that are introduced to crates in a positive way really do see their crate as like, oh, that's my space. If I need a break, that's where I can go. So I love that about a crate as well. My guess is you guys probably already know all of that, which is why I'm not spending a ton of time on that. But let's talk about the types of crates, because you have a lot of choices. So I found 4 different types of crates in general. You get your wire crate, your airline crate, your fabric or cloth crate, and then lately there's this furniture style of crate. I have a video, and I talk about 3 different types of crates, not the furniture, but I'm just going to let this play.
Wanted to take a look at 3 different crating options today. There's plenty of crating options out there, and sometimes people don't know which crate is the best for them, which kinds of crates are out there. So I thought I have 3 here today we'll take a look at and give you the pros and cons of each. This is an airline crate. It's hard-sided all over. It does have air holes in the side, on all sides, and but it's solidly enclosed. It's 2 pieces, literally. The top half sort of bolts on to the bottom half, and it is very, very sturdy. This is, I'm not going to say it's escape-proof, because there are some dogs out there who could get out of it, but it is the least likely to be escaped from by your average everyday dog. I like this one because there's a 2-point contact with the door, so that when this gets hooked in there, you can't open it. It's almost dog proof, if you will. It's very sturdy. This is if you were going to fly your dog on an airplane in the cargo, this is what you'd use. The cons to this, it's really hard to move around. It's not very mobile. You certainly can take the screws out and then sort of nest it in itself. It's just big and bulky, and it's big. It's just hard to move around. I think it can also hold some heat in. Some of my dogs get hot in these, so it's just really important that you have good air circulation so that air can get through these holes here. But as far as sturdy and ability to hold a dog, this one's pretty good for that. This is on the complete other side of things. This is a fabric crate. Every piece of it is fabric and mesh. This will not hold the dog securely if they want to get out. They will rake their paws through this and just open a hole. They can chew through it. It's not for a puppy, and it's not for a dog who doesn't like to be in their crate or who's a big chewer. The pros of this, however, are its portability and the fact that Lily loves it. No, I'm just kidding. This is Lily's favorite crate, however. It's portable. You can fold this thing down flat to about, I'd say that high, and it's super duper light. I mean, it's mesh and it's canvas. It's really light and it packs really well. So for instance, if you were going to go on a camping trip and you had a dog who was really easy to be in their crate like Lily is, this is the crate you take. It's just so easy and so light. I really, really like these fabric crates quite a bit. Last but not least, I have here is the traditional wire crate. This is what's called a wire crate. It's kind of in the middle of the other 2. It's relatively sturdy. You can see it's made of metal. Dogs can still chew out of this. They can still bend the bars, but not your typical dog. Like the dogs that you see in my videos, they would not typically bend the bars and get out of these. They are lighter than that first airline crate, but not as light as the fabric crate. These do fold down as well. They fold down flat, but they're heavier, obviously, because they're made of wire. So I like all 3 crates. As you can see, we have all 3 in this household. We use them all for different purposes.
Okay, so that's a quick summary of sort of what they look like. I can quickly go through just the pros and cons. So this is an example of a wire crate. What I like about these wire crates, they are readily available. You can find them anywhere and everywhere. They fold flat. They are relatively inexpensive. They're really easy to set up and break down. A lot of dogs like that they can see all the way through them from every single wall, right? So it's completely see-through. Some dogs that's great for. We'll talk about this in a minute. For other dogs, that's not great. They don't need to see out. So depending on your dog, that's why I said depending on your dog might be will depend on which crate your dog likes the best. So as you can see, they're wire crates. The air can pass through them really easily. I do like the ones that have 2 doors. So the example on the screen that crate has 2 doors, a front door and a side door. It's just gives you more flexibility as to how you want to use it. There is always an a nice plastic tray at the bottom. You really can't see it because there's a crate pad on that one, but it's for ease of cleaning. You just pull that crate pan out and you can just hose that down or scrub that pan down. If, you know, peanut butter gets on it or the dog does go to the bathroom, and it's really just pull that tray out. It's really easy. Some cons. It's the one that looks the most like a cage, right? So it's less visually attractive. I listed in the pros that the dog can see completely through it. That can also be a con, right? If your dog is reactive to visual stimuli, this is not the best crate because they can see everything. If you back that crate up next to some drapes or your bed, and the dog can pull stuff into that crate. So the dog can pull drapes in, the dog can pull your sheets or your comforters in. If you put that crate next to something that's reachable, the dog can absolutely nibble through between the bars and pull stuff into the crate, which could be detrimental. All of our dogs go naked in the crate because the dog's collar or the tag, especially the tag, can get stuck in any of those wires, and then the dog panics and then they can choke and cut off their air supply. So all of our dogs go naked in any style of crate, but in this style in particular, this one is easier for dogs to break out of because they're lighter. If a dog has true separation anxiety, they can absolutely bend those bars with their teeth and with their paws. So it can be broken out of. And these usually require some sort of assembly. So that's on the downside of that. Okay, now we've got the airline crate. The pros of this, it's sturdy, right? I mean, you can see that's a sturdy crate there on the screen. There are fewer choices. So there's one door and it's only that door. That's the only door that it has. Dogs can't see out of it. So that can be a pro or it can be a con. So the dogs can't, you know, it limits their visual, sort of the stimuli that they can see. It is much more secure than any of the other crates. That is really hard for a dog to break out of because really it's solid plastic and there's really nowhere for them to get purchase. I'm not going to say it's impossible because if there's a dog that has separation anxiety or separation distress, they can pretty much get out of anything. But it is harder to escape from, certainly than from the fabric crate, but also from the wire crate. I would say some cons for this. It's less attractive in that they don't come in a whole lot of pretty colors, right? You get gray, you get black, you get white, and it looks like just a plastic box. So it's not perfect. They are bulky, as you can see. If you want to transport this, you have to, I mean, unless you really want to break it all the way apart, it has to stay together. So it's big, it's bulky. The dog can get warmer in it because, as you can see, there are fewer holes in this, right? If your dog is claustrophobic, it's a con because this does feel a lot more enclosed. It looks a lot more enclosed for a dog. It is heavy. It is harder to clean than the wire crate because you have to put your body in there to clean it out, unless you want to take it apart, and which then of course it gets easier, but just doing that, just taking it apart, makes it harder to clean. And there are some minor assembly requirements. Just as you can see, those screws, those little black things in the middle of the crate, those have to screw together. So some minor assembly. Now we've got the fabric crate. These things are super light. I love a fabric crate because it's very light. They're easy to transport. They fold flat. They're so easy to move around. They're also readily available. You can find those in lots of different colors. Usually there are 3 doors on it, which is also very nice. And the top of that crate, so you could, if you look, see where the handles are, there's a zipper all the way around that top that also opens. So your dog can sit up straight and can look out of it, which I like for freedom. The cons of this, very easy to break out of. As I said, you can only imagine how quickly a dog could get out of there if they wanted to get out, just super, super quick. There's no tray in the bottom of this. So if your dog is not house trained, it's not a great crate for them because there's no tray. It's the whatever, whether it's water, vomit, pee or poop, you're gonna have to scrub it, and it could potentially, even if there's water in there, your floor. It's waterproof-ish, but you know, I wouldn't really trust it. Your floors underneath could get wet. It is the lowest assembly crate out there. You literally just have to pop it up. I pop it up and then lock it in place. Super easy. Those are great for dogs that aren't gonna chew out of a crate and who are already house trained. So they're great for that. Last but not least, we have furniture crates. As you can see, they're lovely. I think they're quite nice. Some of the pros, they blend in perfectly with your other furniture. I think they're visually attractive, and they are sturdy. They're wooden, you know, they're quite nice. Some of the cons, they're not portable. Can't take that on vacation with you. They are not chew proof because they are wood. They are obviously harder to clean than any of the other style crates because they are a piece of furniture. They're not, I mean, this one shows a German Shepherd. You could fit a German Shepherd in this large one. You could never, I don't think you could ever find one that would fit like a Great Dane or a Borzoi or any of the larger dogs. I don't think you could find that. And obviously, you got some serious assembly ahead of you if you choose this. So those are just a quick overview of what your options are for crate types. How to choose the right crate. Well, that depends on a couple of things. The size of your dog. I don't think, you might be able to find a furniture crate for the teeny tiny dogs, but my guess is that any crate, like if you have a little tiny teacup Chihuahua, the crate's going to be too big for that dog. The dog could go to the bathroom in the crate and still sleep on the other side. You also could not use one of the furniture crates for, say, a giant breed like the Great Dane, Irish Wolfhound, that sort of thing. So size of the dog, I think, is important in what crate might be available to you. The size of your house or the room where the crate's going to be. Visual stimuli. So we talked about this, I alluded to this earlier. If your dog is reactive, and what I mean by reactive is like barks at, is agitated or excited by people going by on the sidewalk or deer in the yard or kids playing or at the sight of other dogs, the airline crate might be a better option if the crate has to be somewhere where the dog can see that visual stimuli. So you have to think about that as well. The dog's acceptance of the crate. So like I said, my dog Rogan, he can be in any of those crates that I showed you because he enjoys being in a crate. I can put him in a fabric crate and he won't try to escape out of it. So if you know that your dog would gladly escape from a crate, fabric crate wouldn't be my first choice, obviously. And probably not one of the furniture crates either, just because of the wood. And then portability. If you know that you're going to be on the go a lot, I would say pick the crate that's going to allow you the most flexibility. For most people, it's the wire crate because you can flatten those down. They usually have a handle and it's a little heavier, but they're easy to move around. And I should mention that I come from big dogs. So all of these are portable if you have a little tiny dog, right? Except the furniture crate. The furniture crate is not, but basically what you're looking for overall is that the crate is big enough for your dog to stand all the way up in, so your dog can stand straight up. I don't mean on hind legs, I mean on all fours, stands up and can turn around without being cramped, right? So your dog can stand up, head doesn't hit the top of the crate, and they can turn around without like sort of pretzeling themselves. So to measure for height, add 2 to 4 inches from the floor so that you can know about how tall they are when they're standing, or you can just measure when they're standing. But in general, you want a couple of inches so that they're not hitting their head on the crate. Even if it's a fabric crate, you want a big enough, but not too big. You don't want it to be too big that they can sort of, especially for a puppy, like the Teddy, the golden retriever that I showed you at the very beginning. We got him at 8 weeks when he was really small. I didn't buy 3 or 4 different sizes of crates for him. He was in a big boy crate from the beginning, but a lot of crates come with panels, so you can make the crate smaller. So the dog only has access to half the crate. So when they're puppies, you can still use that big adult sized crate, but you just sort of chop it in halves or thirds so that the puppy has less room. So if you're training a puppy, you want to make sure that the crate isn't too big, that they can go to the bathroom in one end of the crate and then sleep in the other. That won't help with house training. All right, this is a real quick section, appropriate uses of the crate. We already mentioned this. The crate is definitely for management and for safety. It is not for punishment. A crate is not a punishment zone. It's not a timeout. You don't send them there if they've done something wrong. We want the dog to associate that crate with the best place to be. Woohoo! It's really great. So I want in the eyes of your dog, I want your dog to want to go there. I don't want your dog to think of the crate as like jail, or restriction, or timeout, or punishment. Because then if the dog sees it like that, then we can't use it to be the safe spot for your dog, or the place where they can go to sort of self-regulate. So now let's talk about the real nuts and bolts of this. Introducing the crate. Look at that. Look at that beagle. Look how happy. So happy. There are two things that I do to make sure that I call it crate love, that we have crate love happening in the house. One is great associations. I want that puppy, woohoo, great associations. What you're seeing here on the screen is somebody feeding a puppy in the crate. And then I also do a lot of training. So I make great associations, and then I do a lot of training. I sometimes say passive and active. So passive is the great associations, and the active is my actually training the dog. So great associations. This is a visual of a dog. If you've heard of licky mats, this is a licky mat that goes on the crate. So you can put peanut butter or cream cheese or any other appropriate Kong spray or some sort of paste or wet dog food inside the crate. You put that licky mat inside the crate. So from the minute that puppy comes in that door, or that adult dog comes in the door, every single meal that dog eats is in the crate, door open in the crate. Any goodie, any chew, any treat always shows up in the crate. Always. I try to have the most comfortable bed in the crate. They have beds outside of the crate too, but best bed is in the crate. And if I notice, the dog seems to like this bed a little bit more than the bed that's in the crate, I'll swap them. And so if the dog tells me that's not my favorite bed, this one over here is great, I'll put that one in your crate. You can play games in the crate. So again, we're making sure that good stuff happens in the crate. If I have to take a shower, if I have to leave the house, sometimes you have to do that. I have to go to the store. I will use food stuffed toys for longer stays in the crate. So stuffed Kongs, stuffed wobbles, they've got all kinds of we live in such a great time where the amount of enrichment tools that we have is just amazing. I love it. So I like to also put the crate in a quiet spot so that there's less stimulation, less stimuli. I also play background music if I'm going to be gone, or if I'm in the shower. I am a firm believer in through a dog's ear. So it's specially arranged music. It's so much research out there on this. I use it all the time. I pair it with crate time from the minute I bring these puppies home, so that then when I start to play the music, I've made such a great association of quiet time with through a dog's ear that then the music itself brings on this relaxed state in the puppy, and they go, oh, must be nap time because my music's on, and then they'll sort of drift right off to sleep. So I do like that as well. So great associations. We make sure we have great associations. Okay. Training. So what I just went through was what I call passive. It's not necessarily passive, but it is less intentional than actual specific training for the crate. So if you've been to any of your dog's friend talks, you know that we go pretty heavy on food, right? We love our positive reinforcement, and the clicker to the rescue here. So I want to describe, I'll show you a couple different things, but let me show you first. So here's some training in action. This is a little bit more passive training. So I don't have the clicker out at this point, but I'll show you sort of, it's a little bit hard to see too, because the dog is black and they're going into an airline crate, a little harder to see, but this is what sort of the passive training looks like, which is what I described in the first slide.
Levi here loves his crate, and I have a lot of folks ask me, you know, how do you get him to love his crate? I call it crate love. So here's a couple ways I get dogs to love their crates. Is I'll just take his food and I literally just throw the food in there, just throw his entire meal in there. And he eats it, right? Obviously, he's a Labrador, he eats it, he loves his food. If you have a dog that doesn't love their food as much, you can do a couple different things. You could smear some peanut butter on the floor of the crate. You could put some peanut butter Kongs in there. Find a food that your dog does love if they're not in love with their meal. And you can see I am bracing the door open so it doesn't, you know, inadvertently bang closed. Although it wouldn't bother him, it might bother other dogs. And so if you throw food in there, or put their bowl in there, or put one of their food stuffed toys in there, deliver all their treats in there, it's as if the box, the crate, is the place where all good things appear. This is like the mailbox for the best stuff in the whole wide world. They'll check their mail a lot, meaning they'll go in their crate a lot, and they'll have a great association with the crate. And so when he was just learning this, if he went to investigate his crate like he just did, I would throw in some treats and go, yeah, you're right. You are exactly right. That crate holds good stuff. And so now, if I don't want him to go in it, I have to close the crate door because he's in it a lot. And he'll go in there and take a nap all by himself. And what I'll show you in just a second is how much he loves it. And so we get to the point of, okay, now we've got a dog who loves his crate. He loves it, loves it, loves it, loves it. Now we've got an opportunity to add the word to this. So the way that I train is we get the behavior that we want. We get the dog going to the crate a lot, and then
So I'm switching here a little bit from passive training to active training, because passively, I'm just throwing food in there. The dog is associating the crate with food, right? That's passive. I'm going to switch here to a little bit more active training because now I want the dog to learn something specific. So just wanted to stop for a second and let
something. In my house, I'm not very creative, and I just call it kennel. It's just kennel. It's nothing exciting. It gets the job done. So what this looks like in real life is I've now added the word kennel to Levi's vocabulary. So what will happen when I tell him K-E-N-N-E-L is he'll go run. So let's give it a whirl and see. Levi, kennel. Oh, good job. Good job. So that's how easy it is to get a dog who loves going to their kennel. You know, he's just 15 weeks, if he's even that. But when we got him at 10 weeks, so he's had 5 weeks of this. When we got him at 10 weeks, every meal is fed in the crate, whether it's.
So that was a pretty, for a 15-week-old puppy, that was pretty good because there was a lot of distance, right? He had to go around the corner. He had to leave me. He had to leave the food. He had to go around the corner to find that crate. So that was, he was such a fun puppy to raise. And you could sort of see his enthusiasm. And as I had just said on the video, we had him for, for 5 weeks by that point. But you could see he knew what he was doing and he was very happy to do it. So that's the bulk of that video was just the association of crate means good stuff. So now let's go to actual training. So this is shaping. So we're clicker training. You don't have to worry about reading this. I'll fast forward. I'm using the clicker. If Teddy doesn't do the behavior I'm looking for, I simply am not going to click. The absence of a click is really important information to the dog. It just says, whatever you're doing right now, I'm not going to pay you for it. And then I also say, also notice I'm not helping Teddy by talking or moving around because that doesn't really help them. That really just kind of gets in the way of training. So I do both of these things. I do what you saw in the previous video, which is make that crate really fun. buy food and toys and everything else in it. And then I also, where are we? This is an actual training session. So you can't see me, but I'll try to narrate as we go. So I'm just waiting. Yeah, Teddy looked at the crate. He looked at the crate and I went, yes, that's excellent. So my click said, yes, you're on the right track. Can kind of see my reflection in the fireplace door. I'm just sitting still. He's happy. He's an engaged learner. Oh, he looked at it again. I clicked as soon as he looked at it. Standing and looked at it, even better. Oh, look at that. I actually stopped him from going all the way in. If I would have held my click, he would have gone all the way in, but it's fine. The cool thing about clicker training is, so what if you click them too much? That's great. There's nothing, you can't lose. See how he's testing? Like he's going, will this do it? Will that do it? Like he's really trying to figure out what's getting this click. See him check with me? Can I just take one step toward it? And nope, that doesn't get you anything. Can I lay down? Will that get me anything? Nope, that doesn't get you anything. He's really thinking. He's really noodling it through. Yes, what a good boy. And of course, I'm not saying any of that, but that's what I'm in my mind. That's what's happening in my brain. Yeah, he's on to something. He's like, look at this. I can make you click me. Absolutely, buddy. Yes, you can. You have the power, my friend. Again, I'm the concierge. I am the treat giver. And as long as you go in your crate, I will click and treat you. And we started with him just lying on the floor, not knowing what to do. Like this was a raw training session. This was absolutely, I did not set this one up. So that's active training. So you don't have to do that second piece, that actual training piece of it. You can make good progress just with the positive association. I am a clicker trainer. I love clicker training. I love shaping. So all the dogs that I raise, and they actually have to do it for service work, but I have to do the actual formal training piece of it, which is the one you just saw with Teddy. But you can make so much progress. Like if you go, I don't know how to clicker train, I don't have the right timing, you don't need it. You don't need it. You can get through the biggest pieces of crate training by just the positive associations. If the dog walks in there on their own volition, toss some food in. You don't need a clicker. You don't have to shape it. You can just capture it. You tell the dog that it did something great when it does it. Like if the dog just happens to walk in, great, fantastic, perfect. I work mostly with puppies, but this also works with older dogs. Training an older dog really is not that much different than training a puppy. The only difference is that perhaps the older dog could have had a less than pleasant experience with the crate. And maybe you know that, and maybe you don't. Maybe you know you've had this dog your entire life and you've never had a crate before. But you'd like to get one because the dog is getting into trouble. In that case, you do know the dog's history. You know there has not been any less than pleasant experiences. So I would train that the same way that I would a puppy. But if, let's just say I adopted a dog, or I'm working with a dog for a client that, we don't know the history, then I might assume that the dog has an unpleasant history. And then I'll work doubly hard to make sure that we're not forcing the dog in the crate at all. And that when the dog does go near or looks at or it pokes its head in, that the rewards are huge and they're mind-blowing, like amazing. Like the dog goes, where did you get this stuff? It's so good. And so I will do that a lot if we don't know the dog's history, or if we do know, definitely doesn't like the crate. So that's when we lean really, really hard on the positive associations piece of that. Okay, let's talk about some common mistakes that people make. This is a mistake, right? This is a dog in a crate. That is not the right kind of crate. That's actually my dog Rogan. He thought that was a great place to take a nap, and it was just a cute picture. So I thought, well, that's a good picture to put in there, because that is the wrong kind of crate. So that would be a mistake now, wouldn't it? So danger, forced crating. If you are shoving your dog into the crate, that's dangerous. Because we don't, again, if we're forcing the dog to do it, it means they're not doing it on their own free will. And we know, just from our own experiences, we're much more likely to do something again if we like doing it and if we're not forced to do it. If at all possible, try not to shove your dog in the crate. Too short of an acclimation period. So if you're getting a puppy, I would say, let's not get the puppy on Sunday evening, and then you have to go to work on Monday morning, and you put that puppy in the crate, and then you're gone for the day. That's not great. That would not be great. So that's when we run into trouble a lot, is when the dog or the puppy just hasn't had enough experience with that crate to find out that, wow, this crate can be good. This is a good place to be. So a short acclimation. I will tell you, as a puppy raiser, you'll hear this could be blasphemous, but when puppies come home to live with me, when they come home at 8 weeks, the first night at home, they sleep in my bed. They sleep in my bed with me or I sleep on the floor next to their dog bed. I don't force them in the crate that very first night, because here's why. For the last 8 weeks of their life, they have been sleeping in a pile of puppies. They've been warm. They've been surrounded by siblings, by mom, by the familiar smell. Now, not only are they with a strange person, I'm not strange, but I'm different, right? I'm not the person that they're used to. Not only are they with a different person, they're in a different house with different sounds, with different sights. Their litter mates aren't there, and they're probably cold, because in the puppy pile, they are just surrounded by other dogs, other puppies. So the first night's going to be tough, no matter how you cut it for this puppy, because everything's changed. I don't want the crate to be associated with that rough night. So for me, in my puppy raising, that first night, either I'm on the floor with them while they're in a dog bed, or they're in my bed with me. Because look, I'm not going to be sleeping that heavily anyway. As soon as that puppy moves, I'm going to be up and taking them outside. So I don't run the risk of them going to the bathroom in my bed. So I want to make sure that I can then on my own time, so that I'm not forced or rushed. The first introduction to that crate is amazing. It's where they get their food. I'll even get I don't feed canned dog food, but I will get canned dog food too, because that's just so good. Dogs really seem to like that. I want to make sure that the dog they're like, what? This box has the best stuff in it. Like this food is not anywhere else in this entire house. This box has it. So I surprise them in the best way possible, so that they're like, hey, I'm going to check out that box again. Remember how we said, well, one trial learning, if a dog gets up on your counter and gets a sandwich, you cannot convince them that counter is the wrong place to be. We can use that for our own good purposes and go, hey, you're not going to find this good stuff anywhere else except this crate right here. So when we talk about short acclimation, I do not make my puppies spend their first night in the crate. I let them sleep with me. The next night, I'm on the floor next to the crate. They are in the crate because I've had all day to help them get used to going in and out of that crate and finding good stuff in there. Another mistake you can make is too much crate time. So a general rule of thumb is however many months the dog is, so we're talking puppies here, however many months the puppy is. So if the dog is 8 weeks old, that's 2 months. The dog is 2 months old. Add 1 to that. and you get 3, and 3 is the number of hours that that puppy should comfortably be able to stay in a crate. So if your puppy is 2 months old, add 1 to that, you get 3, that's 3 hours. When your puppy is 3 months old, 12 weeks old, so 3 months old, add an hour, add 1 to that, and you get 4. That's 4 hours that your puppy. Now, obviously, if your dog is 12 months old, you don't add 1 to that. It's not 13 hours. we sort of drop that rule by the time they're about 6 months, because by that time, most dogs are house trained by then. And so that rule of thumb goes by the wayside after the puppy's about 6 months old. But if you're wondering how much is too much, number of months plus 1, and that's generally the number of hours that your dog can be in the crate without a play break, a water break, a bathroom break. Okay, so now we're on to troubleshooting. We've got a puppy or a dog who's peeing in their crate. Well, maybe we're leaving them in there too long, right? So it's just too long of a time. I always want to rule out health problems. So we want to make sure there's nothing going on kidney wise or urinary tract wise. So if there's peeing in the crate, always rule out health first. But if health checks, then look at how much time the puppy's spending in the crate or the dog is spending in the crate. Are they getting bathroom breaks? Are they not just a bathroom break? Are they going to the bathroom before you crate them? Because you might say, oh, I put him outside and he should have gone to the bathroom. But unless you know that, we're going to assume that they didn't. So I like to have eyes on puppies, eyes on dogs. Did they pee? Did they poop? If they didn't, ooh, I can't crate them for any amount of time because they're going to have to go. Crate size is another one. If your dog's going to the bathroom in the crate, is the crate too big for that dog or that puppy? So I like to rule out health. And then have they gone to the bathroom before you put them in? And are they in there for too long? And is the crate too big? Okay, barking. This is one that's very common, barking. Most puppies will bark in the crate because it is a forced separation, right? They may not be ready to take a nap when you're ready for them to take a nap. So you may find that they bark or whine. Some barking and whining is good. So let's say they've slept for an hour, they've woken up, and now they're barking or they're whining. Let them out. They probably have to go to the bathroom. So I always believe a puppy if they've been sleeping and they wake up and they start to whine, I believe them. And I say, I will absolutely get you out and give you a chance to go to the bathroom. I also like to listen to the intensity of the barking. So it's not uncommon for puppies to bark or whine when they're first learning how to be in the crate. As long as that frequency, duration, intensity, as long as it's at a plateau and then starts to drop off as the puppy gets tired, then I'm okay. Then I'm willing to let that puppy sort of figure out that it really is sleepy and then goes to sleep. If, however, the intensity, the duration, the frequency, the pitch gets higher, the barking, I'll give it a few minutes and then I'll go check because I want to make sure, we don't let puppies sort of cry it out anymore, especially if it sounds like they're getting more ramped up, more anxious. And what does that sound like? That's, like I said, you get that staccato barking or it gets more frequent or it gets higher pitched. And it seems to get worse as the time goes on. It doesn't get better. And I will usually talk to a puppy. I will also occasionally, say, you're fine, you're going to be fine. I tend to typically stay working at my computer. Like a lot of times the crate will be on the other side of my monitor. And so they can't really see me. I'm on this side of the monitor and I'll just go, you're fine, you're fine. We'll sing a little, lullaby. But I tend to not get up and go over to where they are. I wait for a few minutes to make sure that the barking will decrease with frequency and or intensity. So I want to, for anybody who's had kids or been around kids, if you're a teacher, you can read the room, right? You can tell if a discussion, actually you don't even need kids for this, you just need to know people. If you can tell if a discussion is getting heated, right? You know what it sounds like, even if you can't hear the words. but you can hear sort of the timbre of the conversation, you know, I need to go in there and change the subject for these people. It's the same sort of thing with puppies. If you can tell, this is getting out of hand, that's when I'll go in and I'll check on the puppy and make sure that everything's okay. If it sounds like, or if the puppy is starting to really dig, and again, ramping up, then I go, okay, I need to do something about this. I need to revisit my training plan. But I will, but just know that it is not uncommon for puppies to bark and whine in the crate when they're first learning that this is where they take a nap. Especially when they're tired, they tend to do that because they're just, and then the next thing you look over and they're out, right? They're just out because they were tired, and that's the last burst of energy before they just go, oh, I'm so tired. And then they'll be out for an hour or two, right? And then you get all your work done. So if your puppy is panicking, you will know what that sounds like. You can tell panic, even if it's someone that doesn't speak your language, you know what panic is like. So if you've got frantic digging, panting, excessive panting, drooling, digging, biting, that's panic. When we get that far, I remove them from the crate. A panicked dog cannot learn anything. A panicked person cannot learn anything. If panic is the natural response to being confined, but I can't let the puppy loose in the house when I go away, then I will create a larger containment system for the puppy. So I will have, if you've heard of an X pen or an exercise pen, it's basically one of the pens that's freestanding, and it's like gates that are put together to form like a big circle. And you can put a crate in there with the door open so the dog can lie down, but it's a bigger area. And I've seen people just put down a tarp, but the dog is able to be safely confined. Again, we're keeping the puppy safe and the house safe. So it's not ideal, but it's also way better than that puppy just having free rein when you're not there. So a larger containment system. And then if it truly is panic and you're worried about some sort of separation anxiety or separation distress, absolutely contact a board certified veterinary behaviorist. There's such good training and pharmaceutical plans that you can put together now to really help a separation distressed puppy or dog. There's no reason not to get a veterinary behaviorist involved. They're worth their weight in gold. A trainer and a veterinary behaviorist can make a huge difference in a puppy that's got some panic. Destroying beds. How many puppies have you had that you can't leave anything in there because they destroy the beds? One thing you can do is remove the bed. Puppies don't need to have beds in their crate. They don't have to have them. I've got an almost 7-year-old dog here right now. There is a bed that he could be lying on. He is lying on the tile floor. So his choice is the floor. So it's absolutely okay to take a bed out of your dog's crate. They do have ballistic style bedding. Chewing is a normal dog activity, but chewing can also be a sign of stress or boredom. So if you look for chew-proof bedding, I don't think anything's chew-proof, but it is less chewable. You can do that. And then, we talk about boredom or stress. You can provide some enrichment. So that licky mat that you saw on that previous picture that's sort of attached to the inside of the crate. Another cool idea is they've got some Kong toys that you can hang. They've got a rope on the end of them, and you could stuff that so that the dog could sort of it's an enrichment tool, so the dog has to really wrangle that Kong. You can put Kongs in the crate with the dog. There's so many great food stuffable toys out there. So enrichment is another thing. If boredom is our problem, could also hire someone if you work away from home, or if you work from home but are in meetings all day. Hire someone to come take your dog out and take them for a walk. That just a quick 20-minute boredom buster break, bathroom break also could work wonders. And then when they go back in their crate, they get another enrichment toy, or a food stuff toy would be great. Okay, final thoughts. Crates, useful. I could not raise puppies without them. Some dogs do have confinement issues, so you can absolutely use X pens and gates. The one thing I forgot to mention earlier, some people say crate won't work, the dog won't stay in it, it's too stressful for the dog. The X pen, tried it, the dog jumped out of it. The other thing you can do is you can get gates, and you can, like, I'm looking at my bathroom right now. I could, if I needed to, if a crate didn't work, and if an X pen didn't work, if you can dog proof or puppy proof a small room, a laundry room, a mud room, a bathroom, and then either shut the door or put a gate up, that's another confinement option, so that, again, you can protect the dog and protect the house. And then one thing I didn't talk about much in here is, okay, so like Rogan, he's 6.5 years old. He's absolutely fine outside of a crate, but how did I figure that out? How did I figure out when? We introduce house freedom gradually. So it's not like, okay, bud, you're 6 months old, now you can just be free all by yourself. You'll be able to tell when your puppy, when you're at the house. So right now, I'm in a meeting, right? I'm at work, I'm in a meeting. If I am continually removing things from my puppy's mouth, if I have to go find out what my puppy's into, if I can hear things and it doesn't sound good, my puppy's not ready for house freedom yet. So I know that if I'm home and the puppy's getting into stuff, I can't be away and leave the puppy out, because that's just obviously not going to work. So I see what the puppy gets up to when I'm still home, but not hovering. If they're generally chewing on things that they should be chewing on, like their toys, or taking a nap, I will run to the mailbox and not crate them, and sort of see what state the house is in when I come back up the driveway. When I come, it would take me 5 minutes to check the mail. So I limit the amount of time that I'm gone. So, and I may gate, absolutely. So in our house, I can gate dogs in one section of the house, so they can have the sunroom and the family room, and that's it. That's all they can have. I keep the kitchen separate from the living room, from the bedrooms, right? So they can only have one little section of the house that is absolutely dog proofed. And even if they make a mess, like they pull a plant down or they have to pee or poop, I have laminate flooring, so it's okay. At least it's a lower risk, right? I have low risk of serious damage to my home and low risk of damage to my dog. I would do the 5 minutes, let me go to the mailbox and back. If that was good a few times in a row, I'm gonna say a row, I mean, if it was good on Tuesday, it was good on Wednesday and good on Thursday, then I might, at nap time, if the puppy's taking a nap, I might go, whoop, time for my shower. Let me sneak in the back, get my shower done. And if it takes me, 15 minutes to take a shower, 20 minutes, if I come back out and the puppy is either still sleeping or has moved about, but nothing is damaged, that's some more evidence that we're doing all right. And then I might say, I've got to run to the post office, or let me just run to the store real quick. The store's right up the street. I can be there and back in probably 10 minutes. And then that's how I gradually introduce more house freedom, is I make sure it's not enough time to really hurt my house or hurt themselves, and sort of judge, where are we? Did we do okay? If so, let's repeat that. Make sure it wasn't just a fluke. And then I systematically start to introduce more house freedom, either more time or more area. I'm more likely to limit the area and introduce more time, because it's easier for me to dog proof 2 rooms of my house than it is to dog proof or puppy proof the whole house. So in my house, it's usually they get more time being free, but the same small 2 rooms of freedom that they get. So there were questions. Let me scroll through and see some questions. Michelle says, I have a 14-week-old puppy and will only sleep in her crate for naps and bedtime. If I give her a frozen Kong during the day, when she's finished the Kong, she will bark to come out. What should I do? I would say the first part of it, only sleep in her crate for naps and bedtime. That's great. For 14 weeks old, that's fine. Those are 2 really good associations, naps and bedtime. That's great. Here's another thing that I do. I might put something really good in the crate, close the crate door so it's not available to the dog, right? So there's a peanut butter stuffed Kong, or a really good safe chew toy that the puppy might really, really like, but the puppy can't get into the crate because I've shut the crate door and the puppy's on the outside. So now I have a puppy who's like, let me in. I want to get into the crate. And I go, oh, I'll let you in a minute. Just wait a minute. I just, it's reverse psychology is what it is. Because then the puppy's like, no, I want to get in now. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'll let you in your crate. Fine, fine, fine. And the puppy goes running in and, thank goodness you've let me into my crate, right? So we can sort of build this desire to be in the crate. Usually in my house, if I go back to that video of Teddy, just watch his face and watch. So you can see the reflection. You see him turn and look at me. He's like, look at me, lady. I'm in the crate. I'm in the crate. Look at me. I get goodies, right? See him look? He's like, what's good enough? He turns his head before he gets his whole body in there because he knows I'm going to click him, right? So this is a puppy that's just going in the crate voluntarily. He's waiting. What should I do? What should I do? I don't know. Laying down. You liked it earlier when I was laying down, lady. This is where the lack of click brings you so much information. It's like, apparently that's not it. Look at that. It's beautiful. So your question is, when she's finished the Kong, she'll bark to come out. I might put the Kong in there at nap time. So at 14 weeks, if you've had this puppy since 8 weeks, you probably know the napping schedule. You can probably start to see the signs that your dog is going to take a nap. They get nippier, they get barkier, they get more restless, right? Because it's nap time and they kind of don't really want to take a nap, but their body says they have to. And so that's where at nap time, I would put the puppy and the Kong in there together, and they're just going to take a nap in there chew the Kong as long as you want, puppy. And then eventually the puppy's going to fall asleep because it's nap time. And then before that puppy gets a chance, so I would be watching the puppy after about an hour and go, looks like it's time. The puppy's starting to stir. I'm going to let that puppy out before the puppy gets a chance to bark. So that's on me to make sure that that puppy doesn't have a chance to bark, that I'm able to let that puppy out before the puppy starts barking. I'll do that with our feeding times as well. So I'll put the food in the crate, and then I don't necessarily close the crate door the first couple of days while they're eating, but then as the puppy gets more and more comfortable, they know that they can come in and out of the crate. They're not going to be trapped in there. I will close the door until they're almost done eating their dinner or their meal, and then I'll open the door right before they're finished so that the door is closed, but they're occupied, they're busy. And then I open the door before they're finished so they can come out. And then I slowly start to back that up. So when they turn around after eating their meal, so Teddy would go all the way in that crate. His meal's going to be in the back of the crate. When he's finished, he's going to turn around because he wants to come out of his crate. And then I would open the door. And then the next meal, let's say breakfast, he would wait for me for just a beat before I opened the door. So I'm trying to open the door before he gets a chance to start barking. That's my ideal. That's how I would do that ideally, is I would pair that Kong, back to your question specifically, I would pair that Kong with nap time. And then I want to make sure that I've got that crate door open before nap time is over, before that puppy gets a chance to really bark. Denise, when feeding meals in the crate, should the bed be in or out? I'd say it's just a personal preference for how messy your puppy is or your dog is. I usually leave the bed in because it's just easier for me. But I think it's personal preference. Tanya, when the puppy is still young, do you take the puppy out 2 to 3 times at night? I take the puppy out as whenever the puppy wakes me up. So I would say the first week, it is very often twice a night. It's rare that it's 3 times a night. And we go out, the puppy goes to the bathroom, and I don't turn any lights on if I can, right? I try to, if I can help it. No lights are on. I'm not talking. I'm asleep. I pick the puppy up. I take the puppy out. I put the puppy on the grass. Puppy does its business. I say, good boy, good girl, whatever. I pick the puppy up. I carry the puppy all the way back to the crate. I might give 2 or 3 little tiny pieces of food. I put the puppy in the crate, and we go back to bed. I don't turn on lights. I don't talk to the puppy. I mean, other than to say, what a good boy, let's take you out. And I'm carrying the puppy the whole way. What a good boy, let's go outside. Good boy, you did your business. Let's go back inside. And everything, I try to keep everything as low key as I can, because I don't want that puppy to wake up and think it's playtime. I will take that puppy out as many times as I need to, but that's all we're doing. We're going out, we're going to the bathroom, we're going back to bed. That's it. After usually the first week or two, then I'm only getting up once a night. And then I would say after the first, let's just say 6 weeks they're usually sleeping all the way through. And I'm like, hey buddy, you got to get up and go outside and go pee pee. So I'm usually the one telling the puppy, hey, it's time to wake up, bud. We gotta get you outside, because I know you can't hold it much longer. So, and if they whine when they go back to bed, that's very common. And I'll just usually go, you're fine, you're good, go back to bed, go back to sleep. Very quiet voice, very soothing. And they might bark a little bit, but usually they're tired too, and they'll go right back to sleep, usually.
I have several written down that my clients tend to ask pretty
Yeah,
often.
okay, great.
So one of them is you use the months old plus 1 equals hours puppy can be in the crate. Once they are beyond that, adding 1, and they are perfectly house trained, great in the crate, you put some water in the crate. How long do you recommend is maximum to leave a dog or a puppy in a crate?
I would say it's going to depend on the dog. 6 hours is usually my maximum that I'll leave Rogan, who is 6.5 years. So which there's no formula. It just so happens that he's 6.5 years, and 6 hours I would do 6 hours even if he's 12 or 13. Some dogs have iron bladders, right? Some dogs can hold it for 8 hours. Other dogs can hold it for 4. I would say, so whatever your dog is comfortable with. I personally, I am comfortable with 6 hours. I think that is a reasonable amount of time. If we're going to be gone for more than 6 hours, I will have someone come and let him out and take him for a walk, or let him in the backyard. I think that for the most part, 6 hours is reasonable for an adult dog who doesn't have any other house training, issues. And as long as I know that they've done their business outside before I crate them. So I'm the one that always goes outside before they're crated, and before bedtime, to make sure that I see, did they go to the bathroom? Because if they wake me up in an hour and a half, especially a puppy, I didn't see them go to the bathroom, I'm absolutely going to get up with them. But if I did see them pee and poop, I'm going to go, okay, but I think you might be, it's only been an hour, unless they did get a big drink of water right before bed.
Let's see. So if you've decided you're not going to use a crate, you're going to let your dogs have the run of the house, but you still want to keep them having positive thoughts about the crate in case you need to use it, what do you suggest for, practicing? How often? What kind of things do you do?
That's a great question. And that's where Rogan is now. So I have a fabric crate. I had not had it set up for a while. And then I had a puppy in the house again. And Rogan, so I had taken his crate down for probably a year or two. I did not have a crate in the house. And then I had a puppy come in. I was doing some training with this puppy. And Rogan was in the puppy's crate a lot, just taking a nap. And I was like, I suspect you missed your crate. I would say just keep that crate set up, and sort of, we have an out of the way place that he can have. And I will, when he gets his chew, that's where I'll throw them in the crate. And so he still gets stuff in there, but it's never closed. It's the fabric crate, it's never closed. But that's what I do. I just leave the crate set up.
So how about you adopted a pair of litter mates? You have crated them separately in different crates side by side. One of them does lovely. The other one can't stand the crate. What are some options and things that you would suggest?
So I would definitely, for the puppy or the dog that did not like the crate, I would lean really hard on the great associations. And then I would also lean really hard on this video, like the actual clicker training of going into the crate is a great idea. And then naming it. So I would go really hard on both the association, and I would work really, really hard on the actual clicker training of going in the crate. If the puppy or the dog still had a problem with crating, I would absolutely consult a veterinary behaviorist, because if one puppy is great with it and another puppy cannot be crated, I would go, okay, If everything else is the same, the house is the same, I'm the same, the crate locations are the same, one puppy is great and another puppy is absolutely not great, I'll go, okay, something's different about this puppy. Can we get something to augment for this puppy? I also advocate heavily Adaptil collars and Adaptil spray. It's a pheromone, a synthetic pheromone that has had some good research shown that it does help. It certainly is not going to cure anything, but for dogs that do have any sort of crate distress, or it absolutely does not hurt. Different people make it, so it might come under different brand names, but I will lean heavily on Through a Dog's Ear, Adaptil, and then positive associations. And then if it really does look like it's, if a dog doesn't like confinement, then I would absolutely look to a veterinary behaviorist, or perhaps that puppy might, or that dog might do well in an X pen as opposed to the crate. I would definitely check with a veterinary behaviorist after, if I made sure that I really did all my homework on the grade associations and my homework on the training, and that didn't seem to make any difference.
You brought up X pen again, and I was going to mention too, you can get the X pens with the gridded slats, like that wire crate where you've got bars going crossways and vertical. If you're having trouble with your puppy crawling out of that, look for X pens or gates that only have the vertical slats,
Yes,
so they can't crawl out.
absolutely.
And they make those gates up to, I think, 5 and 6 feet tall. You can almost
They
just
do.
door
They do.
with.
Yes, absolutely. Are they ugly? Yes, they're not pretty. But you know what? Neither is your ripped up sofa or your chewed baseboards, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
I'll take an X pen in my house any day rather than replacing an expensive sofa or drapes or a dog who has really done some serious damage to itself or to your house because of the trouble that it's gotten into.
Yeah.
It's not permanent, right? The X pens don't have to be permanent. And if they are, you can put it in a less used, room of the house. They're definitely worth it for sure.
How about good ways to teach your kids to leave the dog alone when it's in the crate, especially younger kids?
Yeah, when I am working with a client and they say, yeah, but the kids like to crawl in there with the dog. And I'm like, okay, let's have a family meeting on that, because we need to make sure that this puppy has its own quiet space. So we'll have a family meeting if we need to, and explain the rules to the kids and the whys and the consequences. So this is what we do, and this is why we do it. And we catch you in the crate with dog, this is a consequence, whatever, I don't know what the consequence would be. It's up to individual families, but we'll have family meetings and make sure that everyone's on the same page, because it is really important that dog have its own space. Because some of the crates, Great Dane crates I laugh and call them, they're like the size of New York City apartments. I can fit in. So there's plenty of room in there, but it's not what it's there for. And you know what, sometimes if the dog's out for a walk, then the kids can absolutely play in there. If the dog is not in the house, it's yours to play in, right? So sometimes allowing access to the crate at specific times when it's okay is also helpful, because the kids do get to get in there and play around, and they'll pretend that they're dogs and all that stuff, and that's great. And so sometimes it's just, okay, you can do it, but here's when you can do it. Make sure that the dog is nowhere near, so they're not impinging on the dog's space at all.
How about, do you have thoughts on, are there any like chews or toys or things that you would say never leave your dog in there with long term, like if you're going to leave?
I never leave my dogs with any kind of rawhide, anything that they could choke on. So they just chew off too big of a hunk and it gets stuck. So rawhides, absolutely not. If you have a really aggressive chewer, I don't leave them with a whole lot of different things. I love an appropriately sized Kong. If you've got a large dog, when I say large, I mean like a giant, like a Saint Bernard or a Great Dane or an Irish Wolfhound. You want to get the giant Kong, not the medium or the large. You want to make sure that whatever you put in the crate won't go down their throat. It's just too big to go down the throat. They can't choke on it. Also, make sure if it's like a rubber ball or something, make sure it's got 2 holes in it, because dogs have squeezed on a toy that only has one. They've squeezed on a toy, and then as they let go of it, it will suck their tongue. So then the toy gets stuck to their tongue if it only has 1 hole, and then it's really painful to take the toy off because it's suction. But if it has 2 holes in it, it can't ever get a vacuum, so it won't ever get stuck. I also am really careful, especially with the wire crates, what's nearby. So in our house, if it's a wire crate, almost always there's something on top of the crate because it's a great place to just put the mail. You know, you come in and you drop the mail on top of the crate.
Yeah.
Well, it's really easy for the dog to get the piece of mail from the top of the crate, and either they chew the bill up, you know, or it's, you know, a birthday card or something. So I'd say don't put anything on or near the crate, even though it's another, just one more surface to store stuff on. It's the dogs can get stuff through that really easy. So I would add that to it as well. Just make sure there's nothing nearby that they can pull into the crate. Whether it's
And
mail.
even if you think it's far enough away, if their feet are small enough, they can get their foot
Yes.
out, pull it in. I mean, they are ingenious.
I mean, they, you know, they're in the crate. If they're awake, they really don't have anything to do. So they have no problem entertaining themselves, right? They don't have any
Yeah.
problem at all finding something to, oh, and Dorothy says, don't leave tennis balls. Because they can bite down and get it stuck. Yeah, absolutely. Anything that, again, if it'll fit down their throat, you know, or get lodged in the back of their mouth, or even
Or like a marrow bone that they can get chewing on and
Exactly.
hook over their
Yes.
lower jaw.
Yes, we have circular toys like rings. We have rings, and sometimes the dog will get the ring over its face, right? And then so it's in the mouth. It's almost like a bit for a horse. It's in the mouth, and now it's behind the head. And then they get it stuck, and they start to panic. And so a ring, any ring toys, I would not leave in the crate with the dog either. And collars, I'm just a big collar, no collars on when they're in the crate. Is it a risk? Because, you know, if something happens to the house and they get loose, yes, it's a risk, but it's just what you're comfortable with, right?
Yeah.
There's no right answer. Just for us, we're collarless in the crates, but
Kind of following up on the what to leave in the crate, make sure that you know how long it takes your dog to chew something. Don't just go on, my friend said, give this bully stick and it lasted my dog 4 days. Because I had I still have an Australian Shepherd. When I first got him, I would get those 6 or 8 inch retriever rolls, and they were supposed to last 2 or 3 days. He would be done with them in a half an hour. So sure you test them out too before you crate.
absolutely. I stuff Kongs and then I freeze them in the freezer. So, you know, I'll just put, I think in my recipe, it's peanut butter, yogurt, and then I'll put in several cups of just dog food, you know, and mix it all together. And then I stuff the Kongs, I'd say 10 minutes, and Rogan has cleaned it, even after it's frozen. So it's totally frozen. And other dogs, it might take them 30 minutes to empty a Kong. Other dogs might not even want to do it.
And you don't know what your dog's going to be able or want to, just anxious or whatever to chew up, because those black Kongs are supposed to be the strongest ones. I've seen dogs that have chewed the top off and swallowed chunks enough to cause obstruction. I saw another dog we put in a Kong wobbler, the big Kong wobbler, into his crate. He ate the top of it and got a bowel obstruction.
Right. See, and that's another really good point is I don't think there are enjoyable chew-proof toys out there. I mean, I know that there are some ballistic, toys that are really, really hard to chew. There are dogs out there that are just industrial chewers. And even if the toy is too big for them to swallow, if it's chewable, they can get it into swallowable sized pieces. And that's, like you said, that's when things get dangerous. Even those Kong wobblers, which you think would be tough plastic. But if you have a dog that's determined enough, they can, they can absolutely chew through stuff like that. So it's always a good idea to test toys out before you actually crate them with them, so you can be around and see what's typical for your dog, get a good idea of what's typical. Because you're right. You could think that something is absolutely too big that your dog can't swallow. And then you come back and you're like, wow, now it's in 3 pieces. And one of those pieces is missing. So,
right. Yeah. And there are other, so for the dog that ate the Kong wobbler, we ended up taking a muffin tin with a handle and hole on either side and freezing stuff in it. And then we would zip tie it to the outside of the crate door.
Smart.
So that he had access to get his tongue through the holes to get into that, but he didn't have access to the item.
That's really smart because a dog like that could absolutely chew up a muffin tin. Oh my God, can you
Mhm.
imagine the cuts that he could get while he's chewing
Yeah.
that? That's a
Mhm.
smart idea, and zip tying it, and you can still get to the goodies, but cannot pull that into the crate. There's a question, Dorothy says, I never leave a dog crated without water, either in a bowl or a bottle. Yeah, but I think some people don't leave water in the crate, but curious. If I'm gonna be gone, like if I just go for a run, and if I were gonna leave a puppy, I would not leave water because I'll be back in an hour. So I don't leave water for a puppy, you know, or a dog if I'm gonna be gone for an hour, just go to the grocery store. I don't, but yeah, if I'm gonna be gone longer than what, you know, a puppy or a dog would go without naturally drinking water, yeah, for sure, I will leave. They've got some really nice bowls that just clip onto the side. So
Yeah.
all my dogs have made messes if I just put a water bowl in the crate on the floor, because you know they move around and the whole bowl flips over, and now the dog's wet, the bed's wet, everything's wet. The bottles are nice, but they also have these nice little clip-on bowls that are raised so that the dog can move around freely and the bowl can't tip over because it's clipped to the inside of the crate. So I like those too, because then if you are going to be gone for an unreasonable amount of time where the dog would need a drink of water, you can leave that if they don't know how to drink out of a, you know, the bottle feeder or water. Those are great for that.
Yeah.
And they can't tip over because they're clipped to the side of the crate, which is really nice.
Yeah, I think it depends on the dog too, because some of them, if they're taking meds that cause them to be thirsty, I've got one that every time I give her any kind of peanut butter, she wants a drink right after. So if you're going to fill a Kong with peanut butter, the dog may want
Absolutely.
water right
And-
afterwards.
And medication, absolutely, that's a great point, because some medication does cause excessive thirst, and yeah, you can't deny those dogs access to water, even for an hour. But just know that you have to cut your crate time drastically, because if they're drinking a lot of water while they're crated, they're gonna have to go to the bathroom more often. So
Exactly.
you can't leave them. You kind of have to sort of weigh those out.
So my one last question, you
Yeah.
talked a little bit about pros and cons of different crates, and some are easier to get out of, some are harder to get out of. What are your recommendations to clients that have a dog that maybe hates the crate and they go for a crate that is inescapable? What are your thoughts on a truly inescapable crate for a dog that is really averse to being crated or contained?
I did not include those in my talk, but there are escape-proof crates for dogs who are flight risks. So I think they're great. I think, you know, there are some dogs that have pica where they eat inedible objects and they cannot be uncrated if they're unsupervised, because they will absolutely do damage to themselves and to the house. So if the dog, again, if the dog is panicking in the crate, either by confinement anxiety or separation distress, I will absolutely get a veterinary behaviorist on board, because we have got so much available to us now with both behavior modification training and behavior medicine, that when you use those two things together, when you use behavior mod with behavior meds, we can really help dogs. We can really decrease their anxiety about being confined and or about being separated from other dogs or other people. So if we have I would call that an extreme case. If we're going to have a dog that's going to hurt themselves, either by digging out or chewing, absolutely, I will get a veterinary behaviorist involved without question, because we can't make any headway in training if we have too much anxiety. If the anxiety is overwhelming, the training is just, it can't do what it needs to do in order to change that dog's behavior. So we have to reduce that anxiety first.
Well, thank you so much, Laurie. This was absolutely fabulous. Again, if anybody wants to donate, go ahead and go to the yourdogsfriend.org website, and there's a donate button. Oh, and Laurie, do you have your contact information?
Oh, yes, I am smartdoguniversity.com. Smartdoguniversity.com.
Do you have a YouTube site?
Yep, if you go to YouTube, it's just Smart Dog University. Thanks a lot, Carrie. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks for joining us.